So this is Walking Through the World of Math. This is the first passage on the EOG Grade 7 Reading Release Test questions. So you should have already read this, but let's talk about quickly what you probably did, I hope, when you approached this text the first time. So first, looking at the title, Walking Through the World of Math, that tells me immediately that the author is going to have a positive point of view about the topic. Now, generally, the EOG is not going to be controversial and give you why they think math is terrible. They're going to give you things that are generally positive in tone about school. So I know that this author is going to be arguing something good about math. And then if I look down, I can see there's a lot of things in quotation marks. So I'm not even reading at this point. I'm just scanning, but I see hooked, getting it, get it, win, and then I see some quotes. So immediately I look at those words and think the author is communicating something through a specific style. They're communicating something by quoting specific words, and then they're also going to support their point using quotes from famous people. So I know as I read, I need to pay attention to those things. Then if I look down, there's some bold text as well, and I always pay attention to that when I'm pre-reading. So down here, down here at the bottom, you see there are some famous people being quoted, like Aristotle, Plato, British philosopher Alfred North Whitehead, and then I also see another quote up in paragraph 3 by G.H. Hardy. And then there's this very strange somebody else, which also tells me, again, this is going to be sort of an informal style in this article. It's not going to be an academic piece, because an academic piece wouldn't quote somebody else and then put it in bold. So again, this is just giving me an impression of it before I even look at the questions. So I hope those are things that you noted as you pre-read this piece, and then you should have gone through and read it carefully. So let's take a look at the questions. Question 1, why does the author put hooked and getting it in quotation marks? Well, there you go. So whenever you see something really startling or really strange about an author's style, expect there to be questions about it, because this is a very strange stylistic choice. It tells me that probably the author is older, because most people of our generation and below would not put hooked and getting it in quotation marks. So let's take a look at the answer choices. A, to show that the words are slang. That seems reasonable, but let's keep looking. B, to quote someone. Well, you would not put a single word in quotation marks, and you also would include where it came from. So I know right away that it's not going to be B. Okay, cross it out. C, to define the words. Well, if they define a word on the test, generally they do it as a footnote, so I know that that can't be it. And D, to prove that the words apply to math. So the words hooked and getting it don't specifically apply to math. If they were talking about another kind, like later they talk about the word parallel, I could see where that would make sense with that answer choice. But as it is, those words aren't applying to math. So I know the answer has to be A. And question 2. What argument is the author making in paragraph 3? Now, you know, because we've done this lots of times, whenever it tells you a specific paragraph, you always go back and look at that paragraph. All right, so I've added paragraph 3 right above these two questions because both of them are about paragraph 3. So in a paragraph like this, you want to read it carefully to figure out what the argument is, but you know that it probably is one of the last things they say or one of the first things they say. So math has at least 3 faces. Sometimes it's fun, it's beautiful, it has been even been known to be useful. And then it says, there's a quote from G.H. Hardy, and then at the end, he really meant was he concentrated solely on the fun and the beauty of math rather than its application. So I know that the author is making some kind of argument about math having beauty and being fun as well as it being useful. And that maybe he's suggesting that most of us focus on the useful part less than the beauty and the fun part. So let's take a look at the choices. So what argument is the author making? Mathematics is mostly theoretical rather than practical. Now, I think I can get rid of that right there because it doesn't say anything about it being theoretical, and that seems to be the opposite of what the author is saying. So I'm going to go ahead and cross that one out. Mathematics has relationships to both art and music. Now, what they're doing in that one is hoping that you just read through art and you're like, oh, I saw the word art in that paragraph, and you choose it. They did not mention music, so I'm going to go ahead and confidently cross that off, leaving me 2 choices. Again, if you can always eliminate 2, you can get a 50-50 choice even if you don't know between the last 2. Mathematics can be fun, but it can be used for many purposes. That seems correct with what it says. And then mathematics appeals mostly to people who do well in math. Now, that may be true, but that's not what this paragraph says. So while it's not a perfect statement of the author's argument, it is a statement of the author's argument that math can be fun and it also can be useful. All right, question 3. What is the reason the author adds the phrase smile here to the sentence in paragraph 3? I don't know about you, but that really bothered me just on a personal style level. I thought it was kind of strange. But let's try and figure out when the author does something really strange, you try and figure out why. Because chances are they did it for a specific reason, or the test makers threw it in there for a specific reason. So is it A, because many students think math is pointless? Now, I know that's true because I've taught many of you math and you think a lot of it is pointless. So that one's a possibility. B, because the author really likes math. Well, we know the author likes math. They wrote a whole article about liking math. But is that why the phrase smile here is there? I don't know. So let's leave those 2 for now. C, because several unlikely ideas are stressed. Now that doesn't seem right at all to me. So the sentence it's coming from is the sentence saying it's fun, it's beautiful, and it has even been known to be useful. The smile here coming before useful makes me think that the author is saying that maybe people don't find it useful. So I think that that's probably not right. And then math can be a funny topic. The author does not talk about that. Again, the test makers are hoping you see the word fun and then the word funny and you go for it. So I can get rid of those 2. Now, of those first 2 answer choices, while both of them are true, I think A is the better answer because A is a statement that is supported in that quote. So smile here, useful. What the author is saying is prepare yourself for something that you really don't think is true. So smile to yourself, prepare yourself. So I'm going to say it's because many students think math is pointless. All right, moving on to question 4. What does the word parallel in paragraph 4 suggest about the concepts? Now, the test makers here are hoping that you just think, oh, I know what parallel means in terms of math, and that you don't go back to paragraph 4 and see what it's saying. Because if you look at the answer choices, one of them is used in advanced mathematics, and B, they are written on the same line of the page. And those 2 are ones that are easy misconceptions if you don't go back to the paragraph. Okay. Now, if I look at answer choice A, that they are opposite in nature, that is literally the opposite of what parallel means. So I'm going to go ahead and confidently, let's see if I can get a pen, cross that one off. So I have those 3 left. So back to paragraph 4. You know about crawling before you walk, walking before you run. The parallel in math is doing arithmetic before you do algebra, algebra before calculus, calculus before lots of other good stuff. All right. So it's using parallel to mean something similar. And I look down at answer choice D and say they are similar in what they mean. That is absolutely correct. So it's using it to mean similar. It's not using it in the normal mathematic way. All right, let's move paragraph 4 down so you can see the next question. What do the people quoted in the text have in common? So let's look at the people quoted in the text. We have British mathematician G.H. Hardy. We have Aristotle and Plato, ancient Greek philosophers. We have British philosopher Alfred North Whitehead. And then we have the famous somebody else. So let's see what the choices are. They focus on practical uses of math. Okay, that could be true. B, they became interested in math early in life. Now, here's the thing to know about this test. They don't expect you to know anything about any of these topics outside of what is given to you in the passage. So if it doesn't say it in the passage, it is not the right answer. So we can go ahead and be confident about that being wrong. C, they get pleasure from math. Now, that's definitely something that they talk about. Or D, they are all famous philosophers. Well, we know somebody else is not a famous philosopher, so we can get rid of D. So that leaves us with they focus on practical uses and they get pleasure from math. So let's look at what they say. G.H. Hardy said, "I never did anything useful." Well, that seems to rule out the first one, but let's look at the others. Mathematics exhibits the greatest forms of the beautiful. The knowledge at which geometry aims is the knowledge of the eternal. Mathematics is the most unique creation of the human spirit. Okay, I can pretty confidently say that I think it's going to be C, because they are not focusing on the practical. They're focusing on the pleasure that you can get from math. And moving on to the last question on this page, D. What effect do the quotes from other people have on the author's purpose for the text? Now, this is a really challenging question because it's asking you two different skills in one. First, it's saying, what's the author's purpose? Now, you know that purpose can be informational, it can be persuasive, or it can be entertaining. This one is definitely not meant to be entertaining, although the author tries. So it's got to be either persuasive or informative. Now, we know that the author has a very clear point of view that they're trying to convince you about, which leads us to it being persuasive. So the author's trying to persuade you of that main argument that math can be more than just useful. It also can be about beauty and about art and fun. So that's the author's purpose. So it's asking you, how do those quotes help you understand or get to the author's purpose? How do they help you understand that math is about beauty and art? So A, they help to prove the author's point that the world of math can be fun and beautiful. Well, that sounds exactly like what I just said, doesn't it? So let's keep that one for a second. And then B, they are included to provide background information about the history of some famous math scholars. Now, if that one was correct, we would get a little biography about each of those famous people. And you don't even get a footnote for them. It just kind of brushes by it, or it just expects you to know. So we know that the test won't ask us to know something that isn't directly stated on the test, so it's definitely not that one. C, they serve as a reminder of how important it is to study mathematics in school. No, none of them say anything about school, so we can get rid of that one. They illustrate that all of the different areas of math study are crucial to becoming a mathematician. Nope, they don't do that either. So the only one that could be right is that they're trying to prove the author's point that the world of math can be fun and beautiful. All right, question 7. What is the meaning of the word infinite in paragraph 6? So again, you know this strategy. You need to go back to the text and make sure you are looking at that part. So as for the mathematical infinite, it obviously means thinking pretty big. Philosophers and mathematicians have always loved thinking about the infinite. It is one giant step in the growing up of a mathematician. So again, they're hoping that you just look at this and don't look back at the passage. So we're looking for obvious wrong answers like A, the highest number that has ever been calculated. We know it's not that because that's not what it says in the passage. That is the mathematical meaning. B, greater than any measurable amount. That seems to be right? It says they've always loved thinking about the infinite, the big, the beyond, the unknown. C, the largest number at the end of the number line. Again, that they're hoping that you just looked at the word and didn't look back at paragraph 6. And then they have the antonym, the opposite, smaller than can be seen by humans. Nope, that is the opposite of infinite, so it's got to be B. All right, for spirit of math, what is the spirit of math in the text? It's in quotation marks, which tells you that is language from the passage. So I went back and pulled it from paragraph 2. It says, call it reasoning or just plain careful thinking, but without question, it is the spirit of math. Of course, you don't always win. The you-know-what of defeat comes to all of us. Then it's time out for serious mathematicians, another and another try. So you get unstuck, you keep going. So that is what it's talking about with the spirit of math. So let's look at the answers. Solving only problems that are easy. Nope, that seems to be the opposite. Worrying about whether math is useful. Again, that's not what this paragraph is talking about. And then we have the two best answers. being willing to do things one step at a time, or trying hard and thinking problems through. So while math is done one step at a time, this paragraph is talking more about trying hard and thinking problems through. So the paragraph, again, talks about using a tool, it doesn't work, you come back, you rethink it, you try something new. So that is what the spirit of math is. All right, make sure you fill out the corrections form for any that you missed, and I'll see you on the next passage.